Ever since set boosters were first announced, there has been debate in the Magic community about whether draft boosters or set boosters will reign supreme. Well, now Wizards is taking a direct hand in an attempt to force people to purchase set booster boxes. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about the new maneuver that Wizards of the Coast is attempting to take to try and get you to buy set boosters as opposed to draft boosters. Now, first of all, draft boosters have been a part of Magic the Gathering for a very, very long time. Not since the beginning. At the beginning, boosters were just boosters. They were just full of random cards. And then at a certain point, pretty early in Magic's history, they decided, you know what, let's focus on making draft boosters. And the idea behind that is you can get 8 people together, sit down, crack these booster packs, and have a good time on top of getting your additional feelings of, woo, I've cracked a pack, what kind of rare did I get? But for the longest time, draft boosters were literally your only option for boosters. Now, clearly in recent years, Wizards of the Coast has tried a whole range of different boosters in an attempt to figure out where they can get the most money and create products with the most velocity. So we've seen it in products that aren't quite as successful in terms of things like the theme boosters, where they have ones that are based on, they come in a cardboard box and they're almost like 2 boosters crammed together, kind of, but there's only one rare. But the thing is, you can pick a color and you get all cards of that color. So that's one innovation they tried that some people like, and it is very good, I guess, for the overall casual player, but the more entrenched Magic players aren't really buying those. And Wizards tried different ways to make those more enticing by putting particular cards in them that were considered standard legal, but were only available in those packs. Admittedly, most of those cards weren't super strong, but they are still pretty exciting to the right player. Like some of the green cards they make for those theme boosters, I really like. So you've got the theme boosters. They came along with collector's boosters, which are just like next level, all the goodness of a booster, right? But they never really made anything that directly competed with their draft boosters. And that's where set boosters come in, and part of the reason that they're floundering, because draft boosters and set boosters have a lot of similarities in terms of the rough price of them and also the contents that you can expect within them. Now, set boosters are in essence a more premium version than draft boosters. Draft boosters are optimized for the draft experience, whereas set boosters are meant to be a little more exciting to open. So a draft booster is essentially completely random. Wizards uses an algorithm and track print, so it's not really truly random, but it's the closest you're ever going to get to random in current day Magic boosters. And if you were somebody who's old school and played Magic way back in the day, you'll know that true random ain't so great. The original boosters had some real issues with that. But anyhow, all that aside, you've got a situation where draft boosters are for draft. Set boosters are set up, the way that they announced them made it seem a little grandiose, where each booster has a different stage. But I laud the concept of set boosters because it's an attempt to make the process of opening something very similar to a draft booster feel better. So it has basically connections between the different cards, and theoretically, you can get more out of a set booster than you could out of a draft booster. A draft booster will only ever have 1 rare or mythic rare, the possibility of a foil card in it, and then 3 uncommons. The rest of the pack will be commons. Now, a set booster actually ratchets up the number of the uncommons that you can potentially get from a booster, because what happens is they tried to theme the boosters. So you could open a sequence of anywhere from 2 to 6 cards in one of these booster packs that would be tied together by a theme like warriors, or these are all dwarves or whatever, or something a little more more of a loose connection, but still there's something that ties all the cards together. And I do like the additional effort that went into that. So set boosters have a more directed sort of feel. They are not optimized for draft, although you easily could still draft with them, but you're not going to get the same draft experience to a degree. It'll be a little more swingy. Set boosters also have a couple other tweaks over draft boosters, right? So set boosters have every pack including a foil, and also set boosters include art cards. And on top of that, 1 out of every 4 set boosters also has the extra lottery slot where you can essentially get, instead of the token card or ad insert that would come in the booster, you can get one of the cards from the list. And the list is almost like the same thing as a time-shifted concept from the original Time Spiral, where it's just a bunch of different cards from Magic's history shoved in there. Some of them are really exciting, and some of them are really underwhelming. So you could get something amazing, you could get something janky, but it does add another level of excitement to set boosters. So on the surface, set boosters do cost more than draft boosters, okay? So they're roughly about 20% more increase in price, at least where I am. You can get a regular booster for $5 here, and a set booster is $6. Now, obviously, if you're somewhere where the currency is different, you know, you have stronger monetary value, you might be paying less. But regardless, the guideline that we're using here is about a 20% increase. And the set boosters do include more potential value, and they do have that tied together theme. So while it'd be nice if they priced it at the same pack as draft boosters, they're not basically like trying to go for this shoot for the moon pricing with it. I honestly expected them to price set boosters higher than they did. So it was one time where I looked at it and said, okay, Wizards, you're not actually trying to pull as much money from us as I'm used to. So I'll give you points for that. But it seems like overall, set boosters have struggled to really gain a foothold. There are some people who really appreciate them and want them, but on the whole, they have not been selling well. Speaking with the owner of an LGS, I found out that distributors have been decreasing the price that they are asking for Kaldheim set boosters. So basically, I think they knocked like $20 off a box, which is a significant difference, right? That chops down the price of each pack individually, increases the profit margins for stores. But the thing about distributors is they never do this stuff out of the goodness of their own hearts, right? They do it based on how much product they have and the velocity of that product. So if a distributor has a bunch of product and isn't able to sell it, they're not going to do, like when they have a hot product, they're like, oh, you're allocated. You can only get this much, and if you want any more, it's going to cost extra. But when they have a product that's essentially a dog, it's not doing that well, then they're like, let's give it a discount, let's get it moving, because they only have so much warehouse space. So obviously this information is trickling back to Wizards of the Coast, and they're trying to find a way to make set boosters the main thing that people purchase. What it appears to me they're trying to do now is replace draft boosters with set boosters. Now, to clarify, I don't mean that they're going to discontinue draft boosters. I still think that drafting will be an important part of the Magic experience. However, we have been living in a time where people aren't able to go out to LGSs, and thus there are far fewer opportunities to actually sit down and have a Magic draft, right? So while the draft boosters are important, they aren't like a frontline leading sort of thing for Wizards anymore. They're not leaning on it in the same way. So they're looking at ways to turn around and go, how do we get people buying these set boosters to increase our bottom line? So here's what they're doing. Starting with the Strixhaven pre-release, they aren't actually sending out any draft boxes aside from the ones that are supposed to be used for the prize pool. And for all I know, they might even switch those to set boosters, perhaps. But basically what's going to happen is normally when you have a pre-release, what Wizards of the Coast does is they send out a bunch of additional draft boxes. I mean, the store has to buy them, obviously, but they have the ability to buy a bunch of draft booster boxes for pre-release weekend. And let's be real, pre-release weekend essentially now is release weekend. The pre-release used to be you can only get a pre-release kit, and that's it, right? And now you can buy booster boxes, all kinds of side products and stuff, pretty much on pre-release. So pre-release has become the release, since everybody who really wants a box is going to buy a box. And the thing about the draft boxes is, I believe that most draft boxes that get sold aren't actually used for drafting, especially when a set first comes out. It's just people who want to crack them for the cards. So what Wizards is doing this time is they're not sending any draft boxes. They're only sending set booster boxes. So for pre-release weekend, if you want to buy a box of Strixhaven, you're only going to have the opportunity to buy a set booster box you will not be given the opportunity to buy a draft booster box. Now, if you think that's like a bit of a fluke and, oh, what's going on here? No. When it comes to release weekend as well, talking to the guy I know who runs an LGS, he told me that he's only going to be allocated 8 draft boxes on release weekend. Now, there's no limit like that on set booster boxes, but there's definitely a limit on draft booster boxes. So what Wizards of the Coast is doing is they're choking off the supply of draft booster boxes and ramping up the supply of set booster boxes, because fundamentally, underneath it all, most people who are going out for that pre-release experience or going out when a set first comes out, they just want the cards. The majority of them aren't going to be drafting. So essentially, it allows Wizards to go ahead and push the profit level up by 20%, right? I mean, it's not like it costs any more to make a set booster. I guess theoretically, since each one has a foil in it, there's like a fraction of maybe a cent or two difference. Like I feel like that's going to be negligible in terms of their cost of creating these packs. So essentially, it will allow them to bolster their pre-release sales by 20%. So on one hand, I look at it and go, well, I mean, what you're doing it's a little bit like, come on, guys, give consumers the option, right? Like, I understand it, but the truth is, this is going to work. Ultimately, I feel like this is going to work because people who really want to buy a booster box, the majority of them are probably just going to accept the fact that if they want the cards now, they're going to have to pay more, right? So, I mean, it is considerable. If a box is $150, and, you know, that's what it's like here in Canada, $150 for a regular draft box. So if you had 20% on that, you're looking at like $180. That's an extra $30, which is a significant amount of money. But at the same time, people are already willing to spend very large sums of money on Magic the Gathering. And let's be real about how we are. We are all fiends for the newness, right? Like, when it comes to Magic the Gathering, the people who are really into Magic are like, give it to me now, give it to me now, give it to me now. That is how we're wired. So are you really going to want to wait a full week after the set is available to go ahead and get yourself some boosters? Really? Are you going to? Most likely the answer to that question is no. You're going to turn around and you're going to pay the increased price, especially since it's not like they're just going, if you want to buy draft booster boxes, there's an additional 20% charge. They're literally selling a different product. The boosters look different. The contents are different. So it gives your brain a little more room to go, okay, you know what? I'm paying more, but I can potentially get more because of the list cards and because there's foils in every pack, and I really want it now. I mean, Magic players definitely have an immediacy in terms of desire for Magic cards. You can see how like rabid people are for Magic when a new set will come out. We'll basically be done the spoiler season. And watch, it'll happen with Strixhaven. When Strixhaven's spoiler season ends, there will be people who, before Strixhaven is even purchasable, will be going, yo, what's coming in the next set? Let's talk about the Forgotten Realms D&D set. I mean, I've got on my list of video ideas, talk about the things I'm excited from the upcoming D&D set. So I know that this sort of forward, like, we want to keep going. We're in the hamster wheel, guys, and we're just keep on running in that hamster wheel. So I think that it is not particularly consumer friendly to only make the one booster box type available. But ultimately, I believe that this method is going to succeed and it will help set boosters to pick up traction. Because right now, I wouldn't really call set boosters a failed product, but I bet from Wizards of the Coast perspective, it really didn't take off the way that they anticipated that it did. Like, they announced it with big fanfare, and I've only heard from particular people that they are big fans of set boosters, and I've heard from a lot of people that don't care. For me, I actually like set boosters considerably more than draft boosters. I like the way that they're designed. I like what you can get from them. So for me, I don't think set boosters is a bad product, but I think sitting there and not giving your customers the ability to go, you know what, I'd rather pay a little bit less and get this draft box, I think that's an unfriendly practice towards us. Now, obviously, my opinion on this isn't going to change anything, but I just wanted to make you aware that if you go out pre-release weekend thinking, oh, I want to get draft booster boxes and whatever, they're not going to be available. There's no point in going, hey, I'm just going to wait for a draft booster box because there's only going to be a handful available on release weekend as well. So if you want to be in on all the magical goodness right away, you're going to have to pay. I mean, that actually sounds like a slogan for what they're doing. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on the subject in the comments below. Scrolling by on the screen, whichever side it is, I can never remember, are my patrons. These are all patrons who I'm going to say absolutely love Jell-O. So thanks for supporting me, my patrons, and those of you who aren't patrons, you should be Jell-O's. Okay, that was terrible. Anyways, I'm leaving. Bye!